The wind sang through the corridors of Greystone Manor, that sprawling marble mausoleum perched above the sea. Chandeliers trembled as if remembering old sins. Once upon a time, a little girl had run barefoot down those halls, Clara Wren, 10 years old, daughter of the housekeeper. She had loved the glittering mirrors, the smell of roses and candle wax, the way her laughter echoed off the painted ceilings. Then one winter night, everything ended. A fire in the East Wing, they said. Her mother died. The family, the Ashfords, sent Clara away to an orphanage with nothing but a small silver mirror from the drawing room. But the fire had been no accident. Clara had seen the eldest Ashford's son, Charles, spill kerosene while hiding papers. She had seen her mother threaten to tell the authorities. And she had seen Lady Margaret Ashford, the matriarch, whisper, "The help must learn their place." Years passed. Clara survived. She learned. She became Clara Beaumont, educated in Europe, groomed in poise, etiquette, and art. She learned to hide her accent, her rage, her memories. 15 years later, the Ashfords received a letter from a distant solicitor. The unexpected death of a relative in France had left Greystone Manor and its estate to one Miss Clara Beaumont. When the black car pulled up the gravel drive that autumn, the family gathered on the steps, watching. They didn't recognize her tall, elegant, draped in ivory silk and quiet confidence. But she remembered every face. The family tried to play polite. They smiled too wide, asked too many questions, and whispered when they thought she couldn't hear. At dinner, beneath the enormous crystal chandelier, Clara studied them like chess pieces. Lady Margaret, still regal, her voice as cold as marble. Charles, the eldest, red-eyed and anxious, now managing the estate. Evelyn, the niece, cruelly pretty and bored of everything. Thomas, the youngest, soft-spoken but observant. When the lawyer read the will, silence fell. The late French relative, a forgotten cousin, had left Greystone to Clara by legal right of bloodline through her mother. The Ashfords' fortune would now pass under her stewardship. Lady Margaret's smile froze. How unexpected. Clara sipped her wine. Family history is full of surprises, my lady. That night, she walked the mansion's corridors alone. Dusty portraits watched her. In one long hallway lined with mirrors, she paused. Her reflection stared back, not the scared child she had been, but a woman sharpened by memory. "You wanted to erase me," she whispered to the glass. "Now I'm everywhere you look." Her revenge began quietly. Clara spent weeks learning the rhythms of the house. She charmed servants, befriended Evelyn, praised Lady Margaret's charity work, and dined with the brothers. Behind the charm, she planted seeds. She whispered to guests that Charles had gambling debts. She accidentally sent Lady Margaret a forged letter suggesting Evelyn's fiancé admired Clara instead. She praised Thomas's artwork until he confessed his family's disdain. Each lie was laced with truth, each truth sharpened to wound. One evening, she hosted a dinner for visiting nobility. Every detail gleamed, silverware polished, candles mirrored in glass. But as dessert was served, the power flickered and the chandelier dimmed. In the half-light, a servant tripped, spilling wine red across the white tablecloth like blood. Lady Margaret gasped. Clara smiled softly. How fragile beauty is, isn't it? By the next week, Charles had sold family stocks in panic. Evelyn had fled to the city, and Lady Margaret had ordered the staff to stay silent. Clara knew the old mansion's mirrors reflected more than faces, they reflected rot. In the library, behind the oak paneling, Clara found what she'd been looking for, the Ashford Pact. A ledger hidden inside a hollow book, listing secret payments, bribes, and property transfers after the fire. Her mother's name appeared beside a final entry: settlement, deceased. Clara's hands trembled. It was proof that Lady Margaret had ordered the cover-up to protect the family's illegal trade deals. That night, she invited the entire family to supper. The long table gleamed under candlelight. Servants in black masks stood still behind each chair. Clara raised her glass. To the house that remembers. Then she produced the ledger and read aloud the first line. Charles went pale. Thomas looked sick. Lady Margaret tried to interrupt, but Clara's voice cut sharper. You burned my mother alive for this. Evelyn screamed. A mirror shattered as Charles threw his glass. The servants didn't move. They were hired actors, journalists, photographers in disguise. And Clara's last sentence echoed through the hall. Tonight, Greystone's ghosts go public. A week later, the Ashfords hosted their annual charity gala, the social event of the season. Chandeliers blazed, cameras flashed, and every mirror in the ballroom reflected gold. Lady Margaret believed she could contain the damage. She didn't realize that the entire event was Clara's stage. When the orchestra paused for speeches, Clara stepped up. Her gown shimmered like liquid glass. She began to speak softly about heritage, truth, and memory, and as she did, the projection screens flickered to life. Photos appeared. The ledger pages, the bribes, the fire report. The whispers grew into gasps. Then came the final image, a young housekeeper holding a child in front of the East Wing. Just hours before the fire. Clara's voice didn't shake. My name is Clara Wren, and this house killed my mother. The ballroom fell into chaos. Reporters filmed, guests fled, and Lady Margaret collapsed, her mask of grace finally cracking. Clara stood beneath the chandelier, surrounded by mirrors reflecting her from every angle: avenger, orphan, heiress, survivor. Days later, the mansion stood silent again. Investigations began. The Ashford fortune froze under legal scrutiny. Lady Margaret retreated to her room, refusing to see anyone. Charles fled abroad. Evelyn's reputation was in ruins. Only Thomas remained quiet, remorseful. He found Clara in the garden, by the old fountain. You could have burned us down, he said. I didn't need to, she replied. The mirrors did it for me. Before leaving Greystone, she placed her mother's silver mirror on the dining table. In its reflection, the grand house seemed smaller, haunted, hollow, finished. As she walked down the gravel drive, dawn light glinted off the shattered windows. The mansion of her childhood had finally told the truth. And in every mirror that still stood, her reflection smiled serene, unbroken, free.